In this video, I'm going to show you how to overnight flip so you can start to make millions while you sleep. I'll cover the complete basics in this video, so whether you're new to flipping or a flipping veteran, you should be able to follow this guide and make some bank. Anyway, if you guys enjoy this video or find some value from it, definitely drop a like, it really does help me out a lot. Also, if you have any questions about what to flip or how to flip in OSRS, drop it in the comments section below and I'll help you out. Now let's get into it. So, what is overnight flipping? Well, overnight flipping is the act of buying items overnight and then selling them during the day to make a profit. The reason this works is because over a 6 to 12 hour period, prices fluctuate a lot, and if you buy items for their cheap price and sell them for their higher price throughout the day, you can actually make a lot of money between the buy and the sell offers. By looking at item graphs and taking advantage of these price movements, you can actually make a lot of money by just selling items back and forth on the Grand Exchange. The basic strategy to overnight flipping is pretty simple, but a lot of players overthink it. The first step in this strategy is to find some items to flip. If you're not sure where to find items, then I'd recommend checking out the OSRS price cloud. I'll put a link on screen right now to that. You could also join us on Discord. I have a Discord group dedicated to flipping and money making, and we have an item list on there that has a bunch of items that are great for overnight flipping. I'll talk more about what item types to flip with your cash stack later in this video, but for now, I want to show you the patterns you're looking for when deciding to overnight flip an item. On screen right now is a great example for an overnight flip. As you can see on the weekly and the daily view, the item is consistently bouncing from the buy price, which is the red line, to the sell price, which is the green line. This in flipping is called a tunnel, and items that are tunneling are considered to be pretty stable and very good candidates for overnight flipping because it's most likely that when you wake up in the morning to sell the item, that 1, you're going to be able to sell the item, and 2, that the item is not going to crash on you overnight. You'll also notice that the buy limit is 25,000, which means we could potentially buy 2 to 3 limits overnight and sell them during the day to make potentially 10 GP each. In this example alone, I would be looking to buy at the bottom end of the tunnel, which would be around 220 GP, and selling around 235 to 240 GP throughout the day, which is near the ceiling of the tunnel. Even if we only made 10 GP for every single rune that we flipped, and we ended up getting 2 buy limits, that is a 500k profit overnight with about 12 mil invested. And keep in mind, that was in 1 Grand Exchange item slot. You can see how powerful this strategy can become if you list multiple items and have a lot of cash. Now let's hop over to the live overnight flipping example. I'll be flipping on 2 separate accounts, my alt account, which has about 100 mil on it, to showcase flips for 50 to 100 mil cash stacks, and then I'll be flipping on my main account, which will showcase overnight flipping at its highest level. Alright, I am over on the alt account, and the types of items we want to flip with around 100 mil cash stack is high limit, high volume items. So what I'm going to do is take my 84 mil and break it into 8 separate high volume items and flip all of those overnight. You really want to spread out your cash stack as much as you can in all of your Grand Exchange slots, because that way you're reducing your risk. If you're flipping in 8 different slots, if 1 or 2 flips don't work out for you, that's okay because the profit from the other 6 flips will make up for the difference. The first item we're going to list is the soul runes, and as you can see, they've been trading between a range of about 223 all the way up to 233 GP. So following the example from earlier, the tunnel or the buy price sitting around 223 makes me think we're going to be able to buy them around that price point, and we'll turn around and try to sell them for around 233 GP, which means we're going to be able to make about 10 GP for every soul rune, minus the tax, about 8 GP profit. Soul runes are a very high volume item, and the buy limit is 25,000 every 4 hours. So that means we're going to list 2 limits overnight to buy, which hopefully we can end up with 50,000 soul runes in the morning. The next item we are going to flip is the Wrath Rune. Now, the Wrath Rune has been doing some funky things for the past few hours and fluctuating a lot, but I still think it's going to be a good flip. You can see here, about 20 hours ago, the Wrath Rune was buying for 164 GP, and more recently, you can see these dips down to 164 GP each, which I think is where we're going to list at. Maybe 165. Just to be safe, we should be able to sell them for around 170 to 175, which means after tax, we're looking at about an 8 to 9 GP profit, very similar to the Soul Runes. I really like flipping runes on smaller cash stacks because runes are very high volume, they're very safe to flip, and they're not subject to very high taxes. The Soul Runes and the Wrath Runes specifically have very high limits, which means you can buy a ton of them overnight. 25,000 every 4 hours is plenty of volume to make a good profit. We'll walk through one more example before I go and list all of my items, and that is going to be the Runite Bolts. The Runite Bolts have a very strong fluctuation throughout the day, and demand really changes on them, but they are a very solid overnight because they tend to be very predictable. You can see here that the Runite Bolts are bouncing off at about 112 GP, so that is what I'm going to use as my buy price. As you can see on all these separate occasions, they've bounced up around 110 to 112 GP, and we'll just buy them at 112 just to be safe. We should be able to sell these in the morning for around 127 to 130 GP, which means after tax, we are looking at a much better margin than the runes of about 20 GP. The Runite Bolts are a little bit cheaper, so we're going to try to get 3 limits overnight. It's going to cost us about 4 mil to do so. And we've already had a bunch of Soul Runes buy. Now, this might be intimidating if you're a new beginner flipper and your overnight flip starts to buy before you've logged off. But don't worry, if you've done the analysis correctly, there's no need to panic. You will be able to sell these back the next day for a profit as long as you're looking at the graphs and following the similar patterns as outlined in this video. I'm not going to turn around and sell these right now. I'm going to leave the buy offer overnight again and just continue to list my items. And there we go, everything is listed. You'll see that some of our items are already starting to buy, which just means they're near their daily low price as we're setting the flips. Don't worry about it. Anyway, we're gonna leave these overnight and we'll hop on the main account to set our flips over there. Alright, we are over on the main account, and the way that I'm going to flip a 2.7 bill cash stack versus an 84 mil cash stack is quite different, and what I'll be doing here is listing mostly gear related items. So really, I'm looking to flip high-end PVM gear, such as Dragon Claws, Void Wakers, Grazis, the Osmutin's Fangs, things that are used a lot by high-end players that do have a fair bit of trade volume as well. I'm looking for gear-related items that are not only expensive, but tend to hold their prices decently well and don't trade in a crazy range. We do want items that are consistent for our overnights. That way we can buy a bunch of them and sell them back in the morning with no problems. But before we hop into it, the flips that I'm listing can be mimicked onto smaller cash stacks as well. Let's say 250 mil to 500 mil. You can use the same exact principles that I'm talking about in this video and flip those items. Here is a really good example of items I'm looking for, the Dragon Claws. Now, as you can see, these have traded in a pretty straightforward pattern for the past 12 hours or so, and they tend to bounce off the price of about 90,400,000. So I'll be looking to list around there and hopefully sell them off during the day for around 91,700,000 seems pretty reasonable, although we might be able to get a little bit more. And that's really it, guys. When I'm looking at overnights, that's really what I look at when I'm determining if I do want to flip an item overnight or not. You really don't want to overthink it. These things are actually more straightforward than you'd assume. And just like that, we have everything listed on the main account 2.7 bill in flips on the Grand Exchange overnight. You'll also see that I didn't list a ton of items that I didn't have high confidence in. For example, the Kodai wands, I'm not really sure if that's going to work out for us or not, and the Missouri chaps, I'm not sure. I couldn't exactly tell from the graphs. It looks likely, but again, I don't have a ton of confidence, and that's why I only listed 3 of each quantity. A good strategy though when you are working with a larger cash stack, instead of doing this and listing all gear related items at once, you might want to mix in 2 to 3 high volume flips. And just because a flip is high volume doesn't mean you can't make a lot of profit from it. For example, Grimy Ranar, you can easily make 1 mil a night flipping, and I'm actually going to go ahead and list that just to show you guys in place of the Elidness ward here. It's super simple to flip and really easy to make money from. Okay, never mind, we're not going to flip it tonight, but maybe we'll flip it tomorrow night. Anyway, let's leave this account overnight as well and see how we make out in the morning. And it is the next morning, we are on the alt account, and it looks like we've had all of our buy offers come through. Not completely, but this is going to be enough to make a good profit. So what I'm going to do is sell back for where the green line was for all of these items, and we'll see how much we can make on the alt account, and I'll do the same thing on the main account. Here is the soul rune graph, and I think we're going to be able to sell the soul runes for around 233 GP each, which is a 10 GP margin, not too bad, but there is a 2 GP tax, so 8 GP profit for every single soul rune. And following that same process for the soul runes, we have listed everything back on the Grand Exchange. I'm going to log off and go to work, but before we do, let's check the other account. And this account has a similar story. Pretty much buy action on everything, not completely. We didn't get any of the Kodai wands, which is funny because that was the item I was least confident in. Anyway, following the same exact process as I did for the soul runes and all the other flips listed on the alt account, I'm going to sell everything back on the Grand Exchange and then wait for about 12 hours. And there we go, everything is listed. These will probably sell in the next 4 to 6 hours, but I'll be logging on in about 12 hours to check these, and then we'll look at how much profit we've made on both the main account and the alt account. We are back and we're on the main account. It's been a little bit over 12 hours, and guys, we have made a ton of money. Now, the only problem is the Sanguesti staves have not sold, but we still should be able to walk away around break even on those. But currently, we're at a 14.6 mil profit. I'll post all of the flips on screen in their profit right now. We had an insane night of overnights. Very happy. I'm actually a little bit glad we ended up in a situation where we did not have all of our flips sell, and the Sanguesti staves have actually come down a little bit in price. So I want to show you exactly how I managed this situation. Here is the graph of the Sanguesti staff. As you can see, for the past couple of hours, since about maybe 13 hours or so ago, it's been trading in a pretty tight range of around 98.5 mil at its high price, but more recently around 98.3 mil. So what I'm going to do is list around 98.2 and just try to sell these off. That will be around a 300 to 400k loss for every single staff, which is a bit unfortunate, but we're still up a lot on our other flips. If you're overnight flipping, I really do not recommend holding items for longer than the overnight period. You're just adding a lot of risk into your equation. And when you set up the flip originally, you weren't anticipating to hold it this long. So I think it's just best to try to sell these for as good of a price as we can and just walk away from the flip. Looks like we had some pretty good luck on the alt account too. A lot of our flips have gone through, but for the ones that have not, I'm going to lower the prices a little bit and wait about another hour. If your flip doesn't completely sell off, just lower the sell price a little bit as long as you're still at a profit or a break even. If you need to take a loss, that is fine too, but try to minimize them as much as you can. And there we go, the Sanguesti staves have sold. We did lose 2.5 mil on the Sanguesti staves, which isn't too great, but overall we made a 12.2 mil profit, so it's hard to be upset with the overall result. We've collected all of our profit. Now it's time to list another round of overnight flips. Using the same exact strategy and methods as last night, I have now listed all of my offers for the second night. let's log off and check the alt account, set some flips over there, and then make some bank. All of the flips have sold on the alt account. That was a 1.3 mil profit overnight, which is actually pretty good considering we only had about 84 mil to flip with. Let's go back and list another round of high volume items. We might do some similar items because a lot of these worked out quite well for us. And we've listed another round of overnights on the alt account. I tried to switch it up with a lot of the items I'm doing here to give you guys a few more ideas of how to flip a smaller cash stack, so hopefully this does help out. Alright, it is the next day and I am on the main account, and actually I did log on this morning and relist a few items that did buy. I just didn't record a clip for it, but as you can see, we really did not have a lot of luck overnight. There are two potential reasons this didn't work out. The first one is that we listed our buy offers too low and they didn't fluctuate low enough overnight, therefore our offers did not get filled. Or the other reason would be we picked bad opportunities overnight, so the pricing was just too inconsistent and we missed out. I think in this scenario, we actually ended up more with the second option where the setups were not as good as I had hoped and we just missed on price for a bunch of these items. Not to worry though, we're going to sell back what we have and see what we're looking at from a profit standpoint. Luckily, it looks like we had some luck on the alt account. Almost all of our items had some buy activity besides the adamant darts, so we'll just cancel those and sell everything back. It is now 2 hours later and everything has sold for a total profit of 2.7 mil. We did extremely well on the Varrock teleports and the amethyst arrows. We're over $1 mil in profit on those. We'll reset these flips in a minute, but let's hop over to the main account and see how we did over there. And everything has sold off on the main account as well. We're totaling about a 5 mil profit, which is not really that great considering we were flipping with a ton of money. The harmonized orbs we ended up losing $1 mil on, but we really made a majority of our money on the Dragon Hunter lances. They netted us about a 4.3 mil profit, which is really good. Let's collect our profit and put another set of flips in. Alright, the main account is loaded up, and some of our items, oh, look at that, the Void Waker has bought as we're sitting here, so we're actually going to list this back since our overnight flip bought before we even have logged off, and for everything else, we'll let that sit overnight. Let's hop over to the alt account and get our flips in. And just like that, we have the alt account loaded up with some old items and some new items. Again, trying to showcase as much as I can for you guys. Let's leave this overnight and wake up to hopefully some amazing profits. Alright, it is the next morning and we did have a little bit of luck on the main account. Looks like a lot of our items have bought, and we even sold all of the Void Wakers off for a 2.8 mil profit. I'm going to relist everything and then check the alt account, and we'll come back in another 8 to 10 hours. Really good luck on the high volume items on the alt account as well. This could be another 3 mil profit night. Before we could even log off and wait for our flips to finish, the amethyst arrows sold off for a 570k profit, and the stamina potions are looking super profitable as well. So let's leave this, we'll come back later, and let's just see how much money we're making. We are back a couple of hours later, all green on the Grand Exchange besides the Armadyl God Swords, but that is a 10.4 mil profit overnight. As you can see, the key to making bank in RuneScape is consistency, and consistently flipping the Grand Exchange overnight will not only make you better at flipping, but you're going to build your cash stack up over time, and you'll be able to flip more items. Pretty much the same situation on the alt account as well. All green besides the Ring of Duelings, which are still selling off. We're just going to dump the rest of these for around 845 each. It's still going to be a profit overall by a lot. I think we're looking at about a 2 mil profit. I actually stand corrected. It is a 2.5 mil profit, which is insane. The alt account and the main account have just been doing so well for me recently, and I'm really building up my bank. Now that we've gone through 3 nights of overnight flipping, let me give you a few more tips to help you make more money overnight. As I mentioned earlier, always list 8 items when you're flipping overnight. Flipping more items is less risky, and there is a higher chance that one item outperforms compared to flipping 2 to 4 items. 8 items is just a lot safer. Another one of my favorite tips to give for flippers is to not be afraid to sell for a loss. Sometimes you're just going to get unlucky at the grand exchange and you may lose a little bit of money on a flip, or you might even lose money across the board on your overnights. That's why not only important to be balanced and flip 8 separate items, but also take your losses early. The worst thing you can do is hold on to an item and it continue to crash on you. So if something doesn't work out, just sell it, take the loss, and move on. There are a few examples where you shouldn't do this, but for the general average player, it's better just to net that small loss. Another amazing tip is to make an item list. Now, if you're flipping items and you find one that consistently works out for you, write it down on a notepad or store it somewhere, and every time you go to set overnight flips, reference that list. My final tip is to use alternate accounts. If you have a main account that has membership, then make sure you're flipping on another free-to-play account or two even, or even another members account. Even if you only give it a small chunk of your cash stack, you're still going to be able to make a good return consistently flipping these overnight, and it will also teach you how to flip with a smaller cash stack so you can rebuild from any cash stack amount if you need to in the future. And that is going to wrap up this video. I put a lot of effort into bringing this content together for you guys, so if you enjoyed this flipping guide, please drop a like. It really helps me out a lot. And if you have any questions about how to flip or what to flip with your cash stack overnight, please let me know in the comments section below. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.